Did my ex cheat on me for 18 years? This is a baggage story. It's from back in the day, before cell phones, when long-distance calls were expensive, airline travel costly and the only mail was postal. Recently, after 25 years of living in the back regions of my brain, I seem helpless to not dwell on it and overthink it. It's consuming me. I'm a 67 meters and the other prime in this story is my 65FX. I'm hoping my OMC story will be an exorcism letting me slumber soundly again. It will feature a 0-dark-30 phone call, a puzzling love letter, and hijinks in the kitchen. Let's get started. Out of college I was commissioned as a lieutenant in the Army and sent to Fort Knox for 12 weeks of the Armor Officer's Basic course. I had a number of GFs in college but none really stuck. While at Fort Knox I got a letter from one of the prettiest, funniest, and smartest of the bunch asking if she could visit me from California. She ended up staying for 3 or 4 weeks and we had a good time. I hadn't met her parents, so I flew back to Cali with her to say hi. Dad was distraught that we planned to meet up again in Germany, my next permanent duty station, where we'd continue to explore our compatibility. I will not allow my unmarried daughter to go to West Germany with you was his verbal shotgun. I was 23, and she was 21, both products of parochial schooling and a Jesuit uni. Before I headed back to Kentucky we were engaged. 5 months later we were married on St. Patrick's Day. We ended up in Germany, living in a nice German family's 1 BDRM basement apartment. Our small village was 15 minutes from base. In the late 70s, West Germany was our front line against Soviet Eastern Bloc communist expansionism. As a new armor officer, I was quickly entrenched in 60-plus-hour work weeks, random 3 or 4 AM alerts and frequent field exercises. All in all it wasn't a family-friendly environment. My ex had excelled in French and signed up for German night classes on our Kaserne to stay busy. It wasn't long till she had completed the 3 or 4 courses taught by a young attractive male American expat. She continued her classes at the local German uni studying German and Italian. When time allowed we beer-fested, skied in Austria, traveled Europe and both ran local weekend 10 or 20k Volks marches. I had completed the 111 German course and was loosely conversant in German. My ex joined a local track club and was a nationally German-ranked triathlete. About 2.5 years into our 5-year stay, we had one of her German club members not really attractive and about 5 or 6 years old than us over for dinner. Wine, beer, maybe a few mixed drinks later I excused myself to hit the sack because my days started at 5 AM. After sleeping a few hours, the Pilsner wanted to go its way and I got up to use the bathroom. Our kitchen dining room, like every room in German apartments, had its own door and it was closed. It held a large piece of translucent, bottle glass. Our guest and my ex were in the kitchen. As I passed, I thought their distorted images were awfully close. I opened the door to find my petite ex in the German's lap. Were they kissing? Of course, denials all around, and our guest was loudly escorted out of our apartment while my wife protested it was all innocent. My ex insisted I had not seen what I thought I saw. We made up and moved on. She'd attend occasional out-of-town club training weeks. My wife also magically acquired a part-time cash waitressing position at a pub in city 30 minutes away. After 5 years our time was up and we returned stateside where I attended military schools for about 2 years, adding a new skill set, flying attack R-1 Cobra helicopters. My wife was desperate to avoid the typically middle-of-nowhere army posts and wanted to return to Germany. I sweet talked my assignments officer and was thrilled when I could tell her we were going back to Germany. 2 months before my training was complete, she unearthed our rural Alabama fort and headed to Germany to get us housing. She did a great job, and by the time I got there she had organized a nice apartment in a German family's hof about 10 minutes from the small army kaserne I'd be flying from. Both now fluent in German, we quickly made local friends and my ex got a job as a travel agent. For me, the pace of being on the front lines resumed their previous intensity. I spent 40% of the time gone. When we could get it organized, we skied, traveled Europe and took advantage of the contacts she was making in other countries. We traveled to Greece, Jamaica, and Thailand. Our mantra was we could visit family in America anytime. My ex's duties at the TA expanded and soon she was traveling off-season to Austria, Italy and Spain to contract for her small agency's bus tours to those destinations. 2.5 years into our 5-year stay, I was home alone and while cleaning the house found lined page with my ex's handwriting torn into pieces in our bedroom trash bin. Iranian school children don't have anything on me, and with the help of Scotch tape I was able to puzzle it back together. It was a letter from my ex to her married boss professing her love in German. Panicked, all hell broke loose when she returned. After all, she had torn it up, right? At any rate, it wasn't long after that she opted to move out and into her own apartment. I was completely out of sorts. Thank God I had a job that would accommodate an infinite amount of effort. After 2 months I did meet a nice German girl at the local pub, and it wasn't long till we were in a relationship of sorts. Out of the blue, after 6 months on her own, my ex shows up and asks a favor. Her parents are visiting from the States and they don't know about her exit. Could she move back in for their visit, and could we play nice to keep up the illusion of Catholic wedded bliss? I don't know what I was thinking, but I acquiesced. My hot German date was fuming. My parents-in-law came and went, and then my ex just stayed. No big conversation, no new promises, no big agreement, she just stayed. After a checkup with her German physician, she mentioned she had been diagnosed and treated with chlamydia. Her Prussian doc said a lot of American men have it, inferring she got it from me. I had my flight surgeon check and I was clean. For the next 2 years in Germany, I was a crazy man. When she was out of town I slummed around and there were plenty of willing women. I don't know if my ex was likewise busy, but I had put together she traveled with the boss to contract for the TA's future tours. All good things must come to an end, and it was time for me to get another shot of professional development stateside. We really didn't talk about it, but I thought we'd detox in Norfolk and get back on a more sustainable relationship field. I resolved to avoid bars alone and other situations that might tempt me to stray. I assumed my ex was thinking the same thing. I know, stupid. The school I was in was 6 months and had seminars of 18 students led by 3 senior instructors. Instead of being just Army, there were a mix of officers from the Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps and even a civilian or two. We all lived on campus, had a relaxed schedule, and friendly sports competitions started at 3:30 p.m. After about 3 months, one of my classmates, a geographical bachelor, married but family didn't move for the short 6-month course, out of the blue told me, "You need to treat your wife better." I considered it a curious remark and probably should have quizzed my ex about it. 6 months rolled around and it was off to the Pentagon for a 3-year tour on the Army staff. We dutifully moved to Virginia just outside the Beltway and acquired a nice golden retriever. Once again, For me it was an operations assignment, and these were busy times with the invasion of Panama, Desert Shield, and Storm, provide comfort for the Kurds in northern Iraq, no-fly zones, hurricane relief and LA riots. My ex was hired by Northwest Airlines as a flight attendant manager for their international flights. After training for 8 weeks or so in MSP, she was flying to Europe about once a week. She had also really enjoyed the Myers-Briggs assessment we did in Norfolk and got hooked up with one of their highly regarded consultants in DC and helped him when he gave out-of-town workshops. During the 7 months of DSS, I was working on a 13-14-hour day-night shift. I must have had workaholic stamped on my personnel file. Tired one day, I called my ex, who was out of town working an MBTI workshop. She answered the phone. "This is X in MBTI consultant's room." I am fully awake now and I'm like, "What do you mean you're in MC's room?" Lots of backsliding and something about a 2-bedroom suite was her ingenious response. Of course, when married MC drops her off a few days later, I am all into her exit. Still, she sticks to her story and says I'm just being jealous over nothing. Of course, 6 months later MC is now an ex himself and we are off to a new assignment in Tennessee, 30 minutes northeast of Nashville. As I said before, I have workaholic stamped on my personnel file, and with the Cold War over, the pace stateside had picked up. 2 weeks after we unpack the last box, I'm off on a USAF C-5 cargo plane with 3 Apaches and the battalion's advanced party to the National Training Center in the Southern California desert for a 6-week training exercise. This time my ex doesn't get a job and spends most of her time at home. She has our GR to feed and walk and a few cats to keep her busy. After 6 months I get hired to be the brigade ops officer. We supervised 9 subordinate battalions with over 320 helicopters. That is more than most developed countries have. At one point we had helos in Africa, on the US border, in South America, and at the National Training Center. Of course local training was being supported too. By now I think workaholic is a tattoo on my forehead. My wife has explored Nashville and delights in taking me there to see up-and-coming bands in dive bars. Remember, this if before Nashville was discovered by California, and had an NFL team. She seems to know a lot of the hungry musicians in town. After almost 3 years I'm selected to go to Alaska. I'm like, how cool is that? My ex is not at all excited. She declares she is not going to Alaska with me but will live the 2 years I'm gone in Nashville while I'll be in Alaskan cold storage. She explains this will be great because we can get a head start on my post-army life. I'll have 20 years completed then and can retire. So, like an idiot, I buy a small house near Vanderbilt Uni in Nashville. We move in. I spend about 3 months traveling getting special training, and in January, I'm off to take up my new responsibilities in AC. I call home diligently twice a week on preordained days. Life isn't perfect, but it's working. She gets a clerical position with one of those music licensing companies. That summer some of our German friends couple visit me because Alaska is cool, and when my ex hears about it, she piles on. They come for 2 weeks while she comes for 1. So no real privacy in that scenario. Everybody goes home and I make plans to spend Christmas in Nashville, doing the 2 calls a week drill. Christmas comes and I am thrilled to fly south to Nashville with 1 year of separation under our belt. I spend a week at the house. My ex is taking me around to our friends, we open presents etc. We are having frequent time. Few days after Christmas our phone rings on her bedside at 3 a.m. I wake up of course as she's grunting and giving one-word responses. I think, get up to use the restroom, and after I've done my business think let me pick up the extension in the hall and see who is bothering us. As I put the handset to my ear I hear me ex demand of the caller, hang up now. Click, click. I go in the bedroom and ask with a little humor in my voice, who was that, your BF? There was a pregnant pause and then she answered yes. So it was about 4 a.m. when she told me she wanted a divorce after 18 years. My flight to Alaska didn't leave for 2 days and I spent it in the guest room, in shock. I hadn't noticed it before, but her BF's FN slippers were under the bed. She dropped me at the airport and that was the last time I saw her in 28 years. I'm happily married for 26 years now with a 25-year daughter. Literally, for 24 years, once the divorce paperwork was done, I didn't have a 2D thought about her or those 18 years I spent sort of together with my ex. Now, when my mind is idle, for some crazy reason, I relive every day of those 18 years. Unfortunately, it's not the good stuff, the travel, the skiing, the parties we enjoyed together, or the S-time. No, now all I can do is think about who she was romancing while we were together. I've started a list of known and likely candidates. What about the young captain who wanted a pretty backseat rider for his Harley on a Saturday poker run? What about the handsome married German teacher? Did we not have kids because she didn't want to be tied down? Was I using a Cena Dom when we had S-time because she didn't want to be on the pill anymore? Or, was it to keep her from giving me something? Was I considered available in Germany when I was sleeping around because everyone knew my ex was unfaithful? Whenever I had a position that required travel and field duty she didn't work. When I had regular hours and a no travel assignment, she magically found traveling employment. Why did the one person she owed honesty to not know she was on the prowl? Her casual lovers knew. I get up at 3 a.m. and write angry letters I never send. Was I really that gullible or love blind or tone deaf, or busy? Did I really waste 18 years of my life living with someone I didn't know? How do I tell my adult daughter about those years? Even more importantly, why do I give it now? I love my life without her. I have a beautiful S-timey wife of 26 years in my bed. I've had more passionate S-time with her this year than I had in 18 with the ex. Why am I thinking of this sorry loser? Why can't I sleep? I know this is a long missive. I hope that in writing this, and sharing with you, I'll earn some closure, some grace, some redemption. As a soldier, I've always said I like doing something for the 2D time. It's always so much better than the first. When I was dating my second wife, we talked religion, kids, money, and lifestyle before we exchanged rings. I pay much better attention to her and her needs. I've chosen post-army employment that has let me be there for my daughter at every stage of her life. My after-the-army career is measured and valued for what it allows me to see and do in our family. I'm a much better human now than I was then. Still, I feel I was cheated out of 18 years of good memories. Now that I'm 67, I'd give anything to get that time back. I hate the darkness those 18 years of memories have fallen into. It's like a charred section of a library. Bravo if you've hung in there and read this too long accounting of my woes and missteps. If you're like my daughter you won't learn from my mistakes, but I pray you do. Most of all, I'm praying I've exorcised these pointless thought trains. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1, same here. She need every questionable situation. But sure as Esset she was ducking everyone that'd have her. Meanwhile I was stupidly faithful. Just took me 24 years to allow myself to know. Redditor 2, man, I get you, but stop torturing yourself. Cherish what you have now and enjoy your life. And yes, you wasted some time and it's the disbelief that you should have known earlier and moved on earlier, but that happened, no need to teach you yourself now. Op answer, thanks yes exactly, move on which I did so well till recently. The head is a crazy place to be. Redditor 3, thank you for your service. As we get older, a person tends to reflect on the good, bad and ugly of their prior lives, I'm sure you know that. Was it unfortunate that your ex didn't respect her marriage to you? Yeah, it was, but you wouldn't be the person you are now in appreciating your now wife and daughter. I'm 54 years old right now, and could write a book on my past stuff. I used to ruminate on all the what ifs, and I'm on my third marriage and he is the best thing that ever came into my life. We both graduated from the School of Hard Knocks. I've learned to appreciate the here and now. Don't waste any more brain power on reflecting back. A lot of that was her doing, you were just working. You were probably a means to an end, getting out from underneath Catholic parents. She was young and probably inexperienced with the ways of the world. You both got to do amazing stuff, travel, etc. She took it to the next level. Do what it takes to purge those feelings and move on with your beautiful family. Don't beat yourself up, you did what you had to do to keep going back then and you're going to keep going forward now. Good luck, friend. Redditor 4, okay, so you are 65 and have a better life in what you had. Why is this all of a sudden plaguing you? Do you miss her? Why do you need minute details of a cheating spouse to bother you in your happy life? Who cares about what happened in the past? It's done and can't be changed or done anything about. I think the real question is why you seem to think something like this should still even be in your mind. Are you not happy with your life? What you need to understand is life and you got your ups and downs. You both cheated and had separate and together lives. Yes, you wasted each other's time, when you both could have been with your real people, but truly maybe that situation was the best at the time for you both. Stop focusing on the past, go get a hobby and be happy with the relationship you have now. Op answer, JNH look, I agree with you totally. My life is awesome. I wish this tape would get pulled and thrown away. I'm working on it. Redditor 5, you can't change anything and your brain hopefully is dealing with it and sending it on. At least your story might waken some poor betrayed up.